What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another cash game review session. Today we've got a friend Wiffle playing 25 Zoom on PokerStars. There's a bit of a catch to this one. For some ridiculous reason, he likes to play one table per monitor. So the layout's going to look a bit weird, a little bit squashed, but that's on Wiffle, not me. If you enjoyed the video, guys, please make sure you subscribe. It'll take you 2 seconds and it really helps support the channel, trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Some of you may have seen that I'm doing YouTube shorts now, so every Monday and Friday there'll be a 1 minute or so video, and hopefully the full length videos will be out every Wednesday and Sunday if I can keep up with the editing. But enjoy the video, guys, and I will see you in the next one. This is a really annoying fucking layout you've got here, buddy. Like, why is it so small? One table on each monitor, you absolute fucking pedophile. Sorry, one table on each monitor. So you play 2 tables across 2 monitors. That's a first. That may be the dumbest thing I've seen. That's the dumbest thing I've fucking ever seen. Jesus Christ. A monitor for each table. Fucking, we've had 4-color deck. We've had people fucking 3-betting 6 deuce off. And now we've got a guy playing 2 tables with a monitor for each table. It's not, because it's hard work. How your neck must be fucking killing you. It's like fucking playing table tennis. And in we go. We start off with King Queen. We are facing a 3-bet from the button, and we are folding, which is just standard. We won't really go too much into pre-flop. So we'll use GTO Wizard ranges here, which you can get for free. Exclamation point GTO. All ranges are very, very similar. You know, you'll see some ranges, maybe pure open ace 10 or pure fold ace 10, but it's kind of 0 EV here. And then similar with like suited connectors and stuff like that. You won't see ranges, you know, just start opening queen 9 off and shit from under the gun. Ace 10, Jack 10, both opens. So theoretically, doing a lot of small betting on this board on the right hand side. I probably wouldn't even use an RNG, to be honest, because the idea of an RNG is to randomize your GTO decisions, and you probably don't know what Ace 10 suited does on this board in a GTO sense, so you don't know what to randomize, because I don't know what it does in a GTO sense. I know it's going to bet at a frequency and check at a frequency. I don't know what frequency. For example, and it might even just like pure bet this hand, for example. Big blind is supposed to lead a third of the time, though. So this hand, it favors a check more often than other hands. For example, you know, like, I don't know, let's say ace deuce suited, it loves betting. Like ace deuce of hearts are actually pure bets, and you might RNG for a spot like that where it doesn't really make sense because the GTO decision is to just bet. So I don't hate it, because in these kind of decisions, in these trees, you'll see a lot of this, which is just like mixing your range really and just checking a lot and betting a lot. You'll see hands like ace 7 just pure bet. There's only a couple of combos, and even 7's pure bet. And basically our 7x is pretty much always betting. When we do want to trap with strong hands, we're doing it with aces. But yeah, betting or checking's fine. Mainly picking a small size here. Don't like the big size. The thing is, the bigger you bet, the more polar you have to be effectively, because like if you imagine you go all in on this flop, right? Like you can't just go all in with a fucking pair of 10s, because he's probably not going to call worse. So the idea of betting small is that we can bet a wide range for value and bet a wide range as bluffs. And the other benefit of the smaller stakes of betting small is people have to defend quite wide to a small bet, and then when they don't, you just print EV by them folding a lot. So you'll notice here, it's never betting anything above half pot. It's basically not having a half pot. It's basically a third. The general rule of thumb when you open and the board is paired, just have small bets. Anyway, yeah, so mainly just having small bets on paired boards. He calls pretty quickly, turn comes a 10. I'm just going to bet big on this turn here, just for value. I think especially when somebody calls that quickly, like they're very unlikely to have 7x. They're going to at least consider raising. It's a hand that's like pretty vulnerable, but we've got like top 2 pair effect. Well, not top 2 pair, but like the highest 2 pair. You know what I mean? I think this is just a bet. There's loads of shit that connects with this as well. You can still have like some 10-8, 10-jack. A 9 isn't going to fold. Like you could have picked up a flush draw, stuff like that. I'm just going to bet big here, like always. Fair enough. Now that you got the big size on the flop, maybe like you could theoretically check. But like I say, we're not really having that big size. And when he bets this size, we have a call and only a call here. Actually kind of sucks. I guess he does have some 8-6 and Jack 8 as well, but like we're not folding this hand ever, just because we're super high up in our range. Just because like what other better hands are we going to have here? So we have a pretty easy fist pump call. And we are taking days before folding. But you're a nit, bro. You're a nit. You're an absolute fucking stain on the game. Do I think he's going to have a better hand? Honestly, yeah. I think he might have a better hand. How many better hands do we have than ace-10? What are you taking this line with that then calls the river if you fold an ace-10? Name one hand that you're going to take this line with. You're going to bet big on the flop, you're going to check back the turn, and then you're going to call the river with when he bets pot. Don't tell me like, oh, I'm going to have 6-7, I'm going to have ace-7. No, you're not. You're going to bet those on the turn. Aces, maybe. You probably just bet aces on the turn. Pocket fours, which raises. You can't just go around folding because people bet big. You've got no fucking hood on him. You've got no notes on him. No hands on him. And you've just fucking folded basically top 2 pair because he's bet big. This just shows, bro, this just shows a fucking huge lack of, not just understanding, but a huge lack of fucking balls, or a huge lack of like, you just kind of like, oh, he's bet big, so I'm going to fold. Like, the game of poker is like people have bluffs and they have value bets. Like, you know, we beat all bluffs. We don't really beat value, but honestly, if he had like king 10 of diamonds, he could probably bet this big size. You can't just go around folding because he's bet big. You will get absolutely fucking bullied at the tables, bro. Absolutely bullied. If I know you were folding this, it's just fucking overbet everything. You don't have a 7 here. When you bet the flop and you check the turn, your best hand is maybe aces. And if you fold an ace-10, it's very similar to aces anyway in terms of absolute hand strength, in terms of what you beat. So I would just overbet any 2 cards and just get you to fold. Way too tight, man. Way too fucking tight. You just can't go around folding. It's not like he's fucking gone all in. He's bet 12 big blinds, bro. 12 big blinds. This is what you 3-bet to sometimes. 12 big blinds. The labels can always be changed as well, you know? If you think someone's a nit and then you see them blast off, you're like, all right, maybe they're not a nit. Tag him as a fish at least. Tag this guy as a fish. He's got 40 big blinds. Yeah, this is bad. You're going to need some help, buddy. So, if under the gun opens, this is using a 2, a min raise. This is something people don't grasp as well. So if under the gun opens to a min raise, we are folding. Bearzu, shut up. Somebody time him out for a minute. Fold pre. Thank you, buddy. I was going to tell him that. I don't think Cap'n Wiffle sent you a session to review, did he? I think he sent me a session to review. We're going to get to that, buddy. Just hold your fucking horses and don't chat pro. So even versus a min raise doesn't defend king 8 off. What you need to understand about like when somebody else calls is it's more difficult to realize our equity. So it was calling a little bit of king 9. It's now pure folding it, right? Especially these kind of hands, they really don't play well because they can be dominated. Queen 10, it's starting to fold, stuff like that. And that's versus a smaller raise size as well. The only thing that we can say is that, yeah, this guy's most likely a fish, seeing as he's calling out the small blind, right? And there's going to be a lot of fun players, so it is going to be easier to play. But as a general rule of thumb, the people that are sending in sessions and playing at these stakes as well, don't forget, like, you guys are obviously, like, wanting help. So you guys aren't, like, as established as I am at poker, at cash games, right? Like, I've played a fucking shitload. I know how to maneuver, especially around fish. Like, if you think I'm a shit player theoretically, I'm pretty good at exploiting fish and stuff like that. Something you have to realize is when you go multi-way, it's even harder to realize your equity. What that means is, so we could have a certain amount of equity against these players. Let's say this guy has pocket 2s, this guy has ace queen, right? We have, let's say 30% equity, right? With king 8. I don't know what the equity is, but let's say we've got 30%. It's hard to realize when we're against 2 other players because, first of all, we could hit an 8 and have the best hand and one of them could bluff. We could miss the flop, but the turn or river could be a king, but we don't get to see it because somebody bets on the flop. So it's even harder to get to showdown, especially when we're going to be out of position against the original raiser as well. So this is just a fist pump fold. So I won't go too much into the actual ranges. Just, again, look at ranges, right? And just see what it's doing. It's never calling king 8 off, like, even versus just a min raise under the gun. But then 3-way, you need to be even tighter here, especially with hands that don't play well. King 8 off, king 9 off, ace 6 off, like ace 7 off, stuff like that. They're really, really bad. And this is the thing, now we flop top pair, so this board's really good for this guy's range, right? And then we're going to be in a spot where, like, we're just blindly calling down. And if this guy bets and this guy raises, we have to fold top pair and we could even have the best hand. So yeah, this really is bad, Wiffle. This really is bad. As was that ace-10 fold, but for different reasons. To be fair, he probably had it. Let me check call. Turn comes a 5. We've got more 5x. And now we're in a spot where it's like, can we even bet for value, right? He can have still ace-king. He can maybe have aces. He could have king-queen, king-jack. Kind of hard to bet for value as well. So we're like, you know, do we just check? And then what happens if he bets? Thing is, when you go, no, you can't go too big here, man. Like, this, again, this shows a lack of understanding, just because going this big, like, when you're betting on the river, you need a worse hand to call if you're betting for value. So you're banking on him calling with a worse hand than king 8. He's not going to have king 7, or if he does, he's got 2 combos of it, but ignore king 7. So we're looking at like queens, jacks, 10s, stuff like that. Can he call them? Possibly, but I wouldn't if I was him. Think about it. You've called out the big blind, you've check called the flop, turn's gone check, and you've bet the river. We could have ace 2, we could have 6, 7, right? We can have straights. We could have 5x, right? We could have king, queen, king, jack. So if I've got queens there, like, it's hard for you to bluff. You'd have to bluff 7, 8, or like 6, 3 suited, which a lot of people wouldn't do because they've got a pair. So this really is bad. You're overplaying your hand massively. There's not really any thought process here, I don't think. Like, you need to be thinking on every river. I went through this last time. When the video comes out on Sunday, just watch it, because there's a good point where I bring up Notepad, right? And I start talking about how to value bet on a river. Every time you're on a river, you have to consider these things. You have to consider the action that's taken place pre-flop and on the flop, right? You have to be like, okay, what's happened here? And he's raised under the gun. He's bet 3-way. Turn's gone check, and then we're on the river, and we have the actions on us. We have to consider everything that's taken place, and then we have to consider, if we're trying to value bet, okay, what worse hands are going to call than king 8? Like, if I bet big, right? If you're going to bet here, you'd have to bet small, but I'd prefer just betting. I'd prefer just checking here. If I had a 5, if you've got a 5 here, or 6, 7, by all means, go for the big bet. Why? Because if you've got a 5, you can still have king, queen, king, jack, king 10, ace, king, maybe even aces that calls, right? If you've got a straight, maybe once in a blue moon, he's somehow checked back a 5. Although very unlikely, but you beat even more hands, right? So this is well too thin to be betting. Like, if he calls there, I bet you don't have the best hand. And he's folded here, so your bet has not achieved anything, because he's folded. You've not got any value from your top pair. There's no way he's folded a better hand than king 8 here, right? He's not going to have folded like king queen or something like that. So your bet doesn't really achieve anything. Ace queen, we get a queen 6-3, generally just betting. So I don't mind betting small on this kind of board. There's not a lot going on. I'm just going to bet small with a lot of my range, to be honest. You can go bigger with a hand like this. I think it's reasonable, especially at these stakes, and especially when you have a hand like ace queen, because you've got top pair with the top kicker. Then comes a 3. He will have some 3x out the big blind, but not really all that many. I'm still going to be betting the turn, and overbet is a thing here. You can definitely overbet, but like, I don't want to say don't bother like having overbets when you're learning and stuff like that, but it's really not that necessary to be having overbets. As long as you've got big bets, it's fine, just because I think most people will use overbets in the wrong sense. This is a good spot to use an overbet where you have advantage now that he's not check raised the flop as well. Yeah, he's got some 3x, but not really that many. And we've still got aces, kings, ace, queen, which he, especially when he doesn't check raise the flop, he shouldn't have any of those now. So we've just got a huge advantage, so I don't mind the overbet. As long as you go big, I think it's fine. Ace 5 suited, we check back on the left. This is a board that we have to be pretty worried about, so I'm okay with it. This is our boy Cubic, who's in the stream. I like the check back. Definitely call turn. I wouldn't call so quickly, but then he checks, and we have an easy check back. 7's good, maybe bet for value. And we take it down on the right. I like the way he played that hand, to be fair. What the fucking hell are you doing, bro? What the fuck did you just RNG for, you total knobhead? Cut off. Do you need 2-3 suited in there? Button. Do you need 2-3 suited in there? This is not a fucking raising hand. And this is another, people just RNGing. Am I going to open this? Did you do it because you fucking rolled a 23? I'll tell you what, if you open it 1 in 100 times, because you rolled a 2-3, or sorry, 2 in 100 times, because you rolled a 2-3 or a 3-2, I'll absolutely allow it. But what the fuck is this? Click this fucking link. You'll be able to go and look at this, and you'll be able to look at all the pre-flop ranges that you can use. Fucking study it. And don't deviate from it, right? Unless it dictates it. And even then, I wouldn't deviate in the cutoff. The only reason I would open this is if this guy were the biggest nits I've ever seen. And even then, I probably wouldn't open it, just because I wouldn't think to open it because I'd look down at 3-2 and I'd insta-fold. Playing ranges, it's so easy to do. Obviously, you flop a fucking straight. Obviously. And you obviously did this just to fucking troll me. Please just have 7-8. Every time I get pissed off and I give somebody shit for doing something, it backfires. Do you remember the fucking I My Own Pet fucking calls down 7s on a 10-9-5 fucking brick board and he's somehow against the bluff? Like, he just fucking 3-bets and calls down for a 200 big blind pot. And obviously the guy was bluffing. Fuck me. I hope you get stacked by 7-8, you shitbag. 3-bet on the ace jack, and I'm really not liking this flop. Having the ace of hearts is something. Not having a diamond isn't great. Here on the left, just fold as well with the ace jack without a heart. I've looked at spots like this where I think, oh yeah, maybe we can call because he's going to see bet his range. But like, it's so hard to improve. And again, coming back to realizing equity, it's hard to realize our equity because the turn comes to 10, we've got a gut shot to the nuts, and if he overbets, we might have to let it go because we're out of position. It's really hard to do things out of position. In position is way easier. Like, if you floated this in position against a small size, I'd be okay. I'd be more okay with it. I still think just folding when we don't have a heart. When we have a heart, it's great because one, we've got more equity in the hand because we've got a backdoor flush draw, even with a jack of hearts. But two, if the turn comes a heart, then he checks back, we can represent a flush, block some flushes. And now what do you do if he overbets, which as a rag he probably will do? Yeah, people just fucking use over, like nobody has a clue why overbets are used and what they're used for. You're just like, oh, I've checked the turn, I'm going to overbet. And now this guy overbets and you've folded. You've turned one of the best cards in the deck that you could turn. Let's face it, right? Because an ace, you could be fucking stone dead. Jack's second pair, right? You turn one of the best cards you can turn in the deck and then you folded to a bet anyway, right? Can't just go around fucking calling like small bets because it's a small bet. So you should have folded this on the flop. So this overbet here isn't really that good because like what you're really representing. Like I don't really like it on a board like 3-4-5. He's got all the sets. We have basically none. We're not going to 3-bet 3s, 4s or 5s. We're probably not even 3-bet 9s at high enough frequency because I'm just going to call 9s on the button. You're not really getting that much to fold as well that's better than your river straight. I really don't know what to do on this kind of river. Because like, I hate this kind of spot because I have no 6x here. Like I just don't. I don't have a single 6 in my range. So I really hate that because if I bet and he shoves, I theoretically have to call in my own head because I cannot have a better hand than ace-x. Because I don't even 3-bet 6-7 suited. 6s, I might 3-bet 5% of the time. Right, what do you think is going to call that's worse than ace-jack? You're playing against a reg, right? You've got a straight. There's 4 to a straight here. What do you think is going to call that's worse than ace-jack here? The strength of your hand in poker is basically irrelevant. It's your relative hand strength against what you think your opponent's range is going to be that's important. For example, if we've got a straight here, if we just go all in, he's not going to call with that many worse hands. I really hope he just gets snapped off and he's just got a 6. Swear to God, if he calls a fucking set or he calls like pocket 10s there, I'm going to lose my shit. Oh, he's going to fucking hero you with some dumb shit, isn't he? Do you know what? He'd probably hero because he's like, oh, this guy's overbet shove. Like, you're not going to overbet an ace, are you? Because it's dumb. I bet he fucking hero calls you. I understand why he's called as well, but he actually just doesn't need to do it. I actually don't mind it. I don't mind his line. The thing is, he doesn't need to call a set. He's just not good enough of a reg to fold a set. So the reason he doesn't need to call a set is because you should have some 6-7 suited, you should have some 6x, and you should have some ace-x here. So you should have a lot of hands that are better. So the idea on a river, again, it comes down to it doesn't matter. Why does he call the turn? Because he's got a set of 3s, you dickhead. Do you want him to fold? Why not raise? The skiller, this is such a shit attitude to be like, why is he called the turn? Why is he not raised? Because we've overbet, so we're polar. People say, why didn't you raise to fold out hands like ace-jack? Why would you ever want ace-jack to fold? Bro, we have fucking, what, 4 outs? We have fucking 10% equity. You don't want to have raises versus overbet. Why would you raise? So, yeah, the reason he's done it is because he's not expecting an ace to shove the river. So I guess there's some merit in shoving the river with an ace. The thing is, Wiffle, you're not doing it for those reasons. You're not effectively merging this hand. It's not the worst thing ever, but like, again, you're not doing it for the right reasons. Like before with the king 8 where you bet pot, this is a thing. People will see this and be like, yeah, he's a genius. He got the max. And it's like, well, no, not really, because he just bet pot with king 8 on that king I board earlier, which was a terrible bet, right? And it's like, it's about like how somebody plays. Like I'm seeing how he plays, and I'm seeing that there's a pattern in that he's overplaying certain hands, right? He's overbetting all in with a straight here, which again isn't the worst thing by itself, but when you pair that with the king 8, which was an overplay, you're just basically overplaying some of your own hands. Or at least if you're not overplaying them, I don't think you're considering what they're going to call with, right? Ace Queen, I've noticed GTO Wizard doesn't actually 3-bet this. I don't mind 3-betting it, because if we're 3-betting more linear to these sizes, again, I don't want to go too much into that because you're fucking opening 5-3 suited. Right, okay, this guy, give him the fish tag, he's bet pot, what the fuck's he doing? Actually might not even be the worst thing. I was going to say we'll raise this hand. I still think there's argument to raise here small, but it's kind of sketchy against the fish. Calling is absolutely fine. We got a gut shot on a backdoor flush draw. Honestly, this is why I don't really like 3-betting these hands as well, because sure, actually shut up, Stokes, time him out. So you're going to be in a lot of spots like ace queen suited is infinitely better because you can flop flush draws. I know we've got the backdoor here, but it's just going to be a bit more difficult. So I would generally, yeah, I don't mind folding here. I was thinking maybe raising or something, but against a fish, this one's kind of dicey. If I start to say raise or call, it would be more exploitative in the way that, like, if I call this turn, I'm pure floating, and I'm just going to bluff every river in the hope that he's double barreling shit, which I think there's incentive to do. I think there's argument to do, but, like, I don't want to tell you, oh, yeah, double float a gut shot, because, again, there's so many fucking things wrong with the way you play, and if I tell you to just call down with gut shots, you're going to be like, okay, I'll call down with gut shot. Now what? Like, it's not about that. It's about floating in the hope that he's double barreling garbage and then bluffing river. So folding is absolutely fine here. We don't want to bet this turn for this size, but yeah, bet and turn seems fine. He'll just shove a jack now, though. That's the problem. And I'm okay betting this turn, but the problem is you've got to look at your range here and what it wants to do. So we've 3-bet. We don't have many jack X hands in our range. And then this turn, we don't have that many flushes in our range. And when we do, we don't want to scare him off. So this, like, exploitatively is fine. It's like, okay, I'm trying to, look, you know, but I would just bet half pot here and then shove any river. So ace 2 suited seems like a reasonable open. Ace 10 suited, yeah, could definitely 3-bet. Sizing seems fine. And yeah, this, so I'm fine with a third with range. Again, there's a bit more going on this board because there's more likely gut shots. So before with the king 7-3, the gut shots are 4-5 and 5-6, and they're not that likely. Whereas here, there's like ace queen and ace 10, and then obviously queen 10 for open enders, and then 10-9. A lot of these hands are a lot more likely, so it's nowhere near as disconnected as the other board. But honestly, a third with range seems fine on this board. I'm definitely doing this. Okay, a7. I think that we could bet for value on the river. Check calling's also fine. Yeah, I don't mind this hand with ace 10. The thing is, if I start talking, I don't want to talk about how our hand fares in terms of blockers, right? So we block king 10 suited, we block ace king, which you can have at a frequency here. I don't really want to go too much into that when you're fucking opening 5-3 suited, you know what I mean? Like, you're butchering some hands in other ways. I think double barreling this in general is fine, especially when you bet a small size on a flop, you keep in a lot of hands. So when the turn bricks and we still have equity, but we don't really have showdown, honestly, I think you can get away with double barreling this always. The reason being as well, we're going to have aces, kings, ace king, jacks, king jack. All of those hands want to barrel the turn, so we want to have some bluff. So we can bluff ace 10, ace queen, queen 10, basically pure if we want, because we block some hands and we've got equity. So yeah, but I don't want to go too much into blockers and stuff like that, because there's so much more, you know, issues with your play that, like, if we start talking about what hands block certain combos on the turn, it's going to be too confusing when you're opening 5-3 suited and you're just blasting random rivers and shit like that. So yeah, and the a7 seems fine. Either there's two options I would say here, and shove her all in against 50 big blinds. And honestly, like, I'm really not happy with this. Like, they look like a nit fish, right? And like, this is gonna, I always say that, like, big blind versus early position 3-bets is just generally really fucking nutted. So I think just calling and actually being pretty wary on, like, on low boards. Good thing about this is, like, we can't really get stacked unless we drill a jack. Still calling here with the jack of spades. Too good to fold. There'd be some argument. No, there's probably not really much argument for bluffing. Not against a fish anyway. He's not going to fold fucking ace queen, is he? Don't like the overbet because he's just got a shitload of ace x that just snaps. And he's probably not going to fold it. He's probably not going to have a king. Like, we can just bet pot here or like 2/3. But I don't mind the bet. Okay, what is this bet here? This isn't really anything. Like, I hope you get raised. You won't. Like, is this a value bet or a bluff? Again, you're not really considering what you're doing. You just bet because bet. Like, oh, okay, I've got this. Like, what happens when you get shoved on? Are you bet calling? Are you bet folding? Like, you don't want to bet fold because you've got a shitload of equity. You don't want to bet call because you don't have the best hand. Like, this hand kind of like, you know, maybe against, if you're deeper and you're against a proper human, you can bet the turn and shove the river as a bluff. But then you would need to know that you are turning your hand into a bluff here. I'm always showing every pair and a draw. You've just got to consider, like, just consider at every street, and the river especially, you have to consider, and this is why I say to people, one tabling will be infinitely better for you as you're learning. You need to think, okay, if I'm betting, am I trying to get a better hand to fold, or am I getting a worse hand to call? I.e., am I bluffing? Am I betting for value? If you don't really know, you're just like, I'm unsure, I've just got a pair and a flush draw, check. Especially when you're in position as well. Because when you're in position, if you check back, you get to see a river. If you check back, if you bet here, sometimes he shoves and then he puts you in a spot, right? Think of it like this. A value hand, when you bet here and you've got a flush and he shoves, you're like, sweet, I call. When you've got two pair, you bet, he shoves, you go, okay, I call. When you've got fucking pocket sixes and you bet and he shoves, you go, okay, I fold. Make sure you know what you're doing. And if you're value betting and bluffing correctly on turns, right, then you're going to know exactly what your hand wants to do. So if you bet here, what do you do if he shoves here, Wiffle? What do you do if he goes all in? Should have an answer. Exactly, you don't. If you don't know what you're going to do because you don't know if you value bet or bluffing, just check. Fucking hell. The reason you're winning is because you're sunrun. You just smash every fucking flop. Right, queens, I'm going to say all in. This board on the left, I would love a check raise. Again, if I'm betting these kind of boards, I'm going to bet bigger on these kind of boards. I really don't like this. You just did with ranging every board. But remember as well, out of position, you can check to check raise. And then you can balance your weaker hands as well. Right, queens, I'm going to do one of one thing, and that is go all in. I don't really want to 4-bet against this stack size because it gets weird when they flat and there's an ace or a king on the board, which is, I think, is going to happen. I think it's 45% of the time or like 40% of the time or something. It's going to be an overcard. Yeah, just all in. If they're playing a full stack, we don't have to shove, but yeah, just get it in. Get it in, boys. Checks round on the flop. Turn checks round and the river, we drill it. I prefer big bets here rather than the small bet. On the right hand side, this king 9. I don't like checking. I don't like the small bet. Just bet big here. Like, think about it, if we're bluffing here, we're gonna want to bet big as well. So, and he can still have some king X and shit as well. So, king 9's actually kind of close. I think we can fold this on the flop. An easy fold on turn. Are you fucking winding me up? Are you actually winding me up? Right, 29 minutes 30. We call the turn. I know I'm halfway through the video, you dickhead. I can see where I am. I'm talking about, is there any spots at the end? 29 minutes 30, right? He bets 9 big blinds into 12 on an ace-king 4-jack board we call with king 9. 1 minute 20. He bets 12 big blinds, which is basically pot, and a 9, 7, 7, 10, 4, and we fold ace 10. I know what your thought process is here, and it's fucking dumb. Your thought process is, well, I unblocked the flush draws. You could have fucking king, queen of clubs, queen 10 of clubs, queen 10 of diamonds. All his value has you drawing dead. You have 0% equity against most of his value, besides ace jack. Ace king, you are dead. Aces, kings, jacks, you are dead. Pocket fours, you are dead. Queen 10, you are dead. Obviously, check, and he mucks. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing these fucking... I'm not doing these fucking cash games reviews anymore. It's bullshit. Picking up the queens. At least his sizes seem... this will be a bit small, actually. It's not too bad, but like I still think that's a little small. I know I do say somewhere around 3 times in position, somewhere around 4 times out of position. I'm not really making it any smaller than 9 out of position ever, even versus a min raise. So I'm probably going like 10 big blinds here. Against a fish at this stack depth, just bet flop and get it in here always. Against a fish, we don't have to worry too much on this board about being beat because, like, look at the stats apart ratio. Like, checking back here is fine. 100 bigs deep. In fact, 100 bigs deep, I would probably only check, to be honest. But like here, I'm just trying to get this in. We're against like not a proper human being. He's going to get it in way wider. Like, we don't even have the ace of clubs, so we can have nut flush draws. I'm just going to bet 2/3 here always. Thing is as well, when he has like 9s, 10s, jacks, or like some fucking ace 6 suited, cards like this on the turn are going to just like make it way harder to get money from hands that we actually beat as well. Not to mention we could just be beat now. And now we have no fucking clue what to do here because there's 4 to a straight. We could have 0% equity, or we could have like fucking like 80% equity. We literally just don't know. And against the fish, like, it's so hard to gauge. I really don't know what to do here. With like, I'm just betting the flop, so I'm not in this spot. It'd be so dumb for him to have a straight, but at the end of the day, you overbet jammed with the bottom end of the straight earlier and got paid off by a set. So what the fuck do I know? King Jack suited in position here. I don't know what you're rolling for. This is a pure call, buddy. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. So these hands don't really 4-bet in position. They 4-bet out of position. So these hands, they're basically too good to 4-bet. Ace Queen suited, it's 4-betting for value, I assume, because I assume it calls off. It does. It pure 4-bets for value. These are too good to 4-bet fold. They're not good enough to 4-bet call. So King 10 suited is the line. Now, if you look at it in a different spot, cut off, look at it. Fucking loves it, man. Because we're out of position. Now, how many times do I tell you guys it's so much harder to realize your equity when you're out of position? So what does that mean translated here? It's easier to realize your equity in position, which means 2 things. 1, you want to call here because you can realize your equity easier than he can. 2, he's going to have a tougher time realizing his equity out of position. So what does that mean? It means he reacts to the 4-bet by going all in more than he does calling. So, yeah, just this 4-bet shit. But again, just learn your ranges. Because he responds here. He doesn't have many calls. He's got mainly shoves, right? Which means we have to 4-bet fold. So just call. You really want to use the hands like King Jack off and Ace Jack off and stuff like that. Oh, shit. There's 100 big blinds in here. What the fuck's going on here? Right, all right. We're 4-bet Ace Queen. This seems fine. I'm a little bit sketchy about it because we're so fucking deep, bro. Bet small on the flop. Betting on the turn seems pretty reasonable. Check calling seems reasonable as well. Check shoving actually isn't the worst thing. King on the river, and I actually think both options are open here. Okay, I'll tell you what. This is a spot where you could have a 10% bet, and you could 10% pocket kings as well. I actually don't hate this. I also don't hate shoving. I also don't hate checking. Shoving is thin as fuck. But if we ever have a bluff, we're going to do it. So I would shove this against some opponents. I would check call against opponents who I think are going to bluff. Because we can't check fold this hand, it's too strong. And then I think this actually works pretty well if you're balanced. Now, my guess is when you've got pocket kings, there's no fucking shot in hell you're betting 10%. Because your brain doesn't do it, right? Like, GTO Wizard will bet 10% with kings here and ace queen, I bet you. But people's mind goes to like, I've got top set, I'm just all in, aren't I, lads? Right? So, that's the problem, because then I see somebody like you do this, and I just like, it doesn't matter what my fucking cards are. It doesn't matter what my cards are. If you're betting the strength of your hand here, right, and you're not balancing it with stronger hands, I'm just all in. Your strongest hand you can have is ace queen. I put you in a spot. If you want to call it, good luck to you. Honestly, there's argument to call. You lose to... I don't even think ace-king finds the shove, so you lose to 1 combo of king-queen and 3 combos of kings and 1 of queens. So I actually think you can call. Honestly, for me, this just depends entirely on opponent, because there are human beings out there that are such fannies, that are such jokes, that are such stains on the game of poker. They ruin the game to such an extent that they will never bluff here in a million years. Like a million years. They would never ever bluff. And it makes me sick. This guy, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just getting it in, isn't he? Nice. And this is the thing. So when you bet 10% here, I don't know if like you want to necessarily think I'm going to bet call here. I actually think the bet call is fine. You're probably going to need to be prepared to do this, especially if this is the top of your range, which it is. I think this is fine. So this guy has a pure fold pre. He has a pure call on the flop. He has the easiest of folds on the turn. Oh, I've got the ace of spades. I'm going to bluff a spade. And then bluffs the fucking king anyway. Okay. That's definitely not a profitable call in the long run. First of all, shut up. Secondly, yes, it probably is. Thirdly, you're going to make me do this again? Twice in the space of fucking 5 minutes? Christ. Shame.
Nobody asks.
Shut up.